when we use the rubric, when we look at the rubric for to give someone the scholarship, we look at their community service, we look at their GPA, and we look at their scores, their SAT or ACT scores. So if you don't know about CEF, I would definitely look into on our website when it comes time for you to apply for college. So we'll talk briefly about all these things on here. I'm not going to go into detail for some reason. I mean, I don't want to bore you with a lot of details, but for the most part, we'll go over all of it. So does anybody want to read what's on the board? It's a quote. Go for it.
Maybe you were like me and somebody told you that you weren't college material. Ask yourself whether you're going to believe the haters or the honest truth of your own story.
Okay, and so that was said by who? Michelle Obama. Y'all know who she is, right? Yeah. Okay. What does that mean to you when you read that quote? Yeah.
Like if people tell you that you're not like good enough or something, like it's basically saying like ask yourself if you're gonna believe them or if you're gonna like believe like what you say that you are.
Right. Yeah. So since you're still early in the process, you're going to come across individuals like counselors or teachers that may, for some reason, put you down or not believe in you or tell you they're not able to do so. A simple example, like you're trying to do well in a class and this report is due on Friday and you're struggling to do well and the teacher already tells you, you know what, I know you're not going to do well, so here's your extra credit. So how are you going to flip that and not use the extra credit and do well on that assignment? It's going to come from you. It's going to come from the intrinsic motivation that you have as an individual. You're going to have to start believing in yourself more than anybody else believes in you, whether it's a counselor, parent, sibling, friend. As long as you know what you're capable of doing, that's what matters, right? Does everybody know here what their gifts are and what they're capable of doing? I mean, it's a little early, but yes. So do you want to say something? Okay. So just kind of reflect on the accomplishments you've had so far, whether you've been doing so well in school or you've been part of a community or community service that you're doing for your own family members or your church, something that you're proud of, and no one can take that from you. And keep going. And find what motivates you and keep doing that. Okay? So the question here, why would you want to go to college? I know a lot of you are told by who to go to college? Our parents, right? But really, what is the why for you to go to college?
For you to be able to like
Right. I mean, you want to have job security towards your end of your career. You want to make sure that you have a successful job. Okay. What else? Yeah. Learn more, right? Your knowledge. That's an investment to expand your knowledge, right? Because the more you learn about certain things, the more you have that knowledge, and no one else can take that from you, right? What else? Yeah. Respect, right? There's respect across the board when you have certain education, right? Sure. What else? There's one big obvious answer. No one has said it yet. Yeah. Learn to do what? Right. You broadening your horizon. You're understanding how certain things work, right? Especially when we have politics going on right now. But what else could be something that motivates you to go get an education or go to college in general? You want to be successful in life, but there's another big one. Yeah. You have more potential in what? To do what? To do well, right? Yeah, you will always continue to move up in your career. One more thing. What is it? I mean, I know you don't want to say it because you're humble, I get it. But what is that one thing that we all need? Money. I mean, I know not everybody here is for the money, but it is the financial stability. You want to live comfortably. You don't want to be poor, right? So having a degree to move up in your career, you're going to have that financial stability as well, no matter what school you go to. It doesn't matter if you go to a UC or a Cal State or a private. At the end of the day, you'll have a successful job and you make money because you are passionate about the job that you have. So that's another one. Anything else? So all of you are going to college or are hoping to attend college because of you, not your parents. Yes. We all agree on that? Okay. So today when you go home, you tell your parents, I'm going to college because I want to go to college. Okay? There you go. All right. We'll go over these. So we talked about the ACG requirements in high school, right? So in high school, some of you know already, there's subjects that you're taking, right? Science, English, math, history, arts, right? So those are going to be subjects that you take in high school to at least graduate. There are certain numbers of years that you have to take these subjects throughout high school. So for example, math, you have to take it for how many years? Well, the required is 3, but the recommended, as you said, is 4. Yeah. Is that what? Right, yeah, so his question was, if we're taking advanced placement courses or honors courses, do you still have to take the 3 years? Yes, so, even if you do what? That's a good question. So he said, even if I finish 11th grade math in freshman year, do I still have to continue? So the answer is no. So the thing is though, let's say you're in 9th grade now and you're taking the highest level of math, like let's say calculus, right? That is the highest. That means that satisfied the rest of the basic requirements, which is algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, right? Those are the steps for math. I'm sure you guys, I'm telling you guys, but I think you guys know already, but I'm noticing that you guys don't know anything about this. But so in high school, for math, you need algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2. First, second, third year, okay? He was saying, well, what if I take higher than algebra 2, like calculus or stats, and that should be enough for my 3 years? It is true. So if I already have established that I've taken algebra 1 and algebra 2 and geometry in middle school and go into calculus, then that will satisfy those requirements for math, but you can continue taking AP courses and honors in math to look better in for college applications. Okay, so how many how many years of history do we need? 2 years of history, okay? That's just the required, but you can always do more than what's required. What about English? 4 years of English. Science? No, science. Science, there's only 2 that you need. One has to be physical and one has to be biological. So chemistry and biology could count, or physics and biology can count. You can always do a 3rd year though, of AP something. What about language, like Spanish or French or Latin? 2 years, and you can always do 3 or 4. What about arts, like the visual arts section? 1 year, right? And then electives, that's going to be up to your high school. Every high school is different. They'll have different electives. Some of them are AP, some of them are not honors or AP. Just depends. And the same goes for the AP and honors courses. Some high schools may not have as many AP or honors courses. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're not going to go to college. It's just they don't have that as a option, right? So when you're applying for college, the college people or the admissions folks are going to see that your high school didn't offer it, so that's not going to put you at a disadvantage. Any questions about the A through G requirements? So when someone says A through G, they're just subjects that you need to take in high school. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Advanced placement, meaning college level classes. So in high school, students can take college level courses to give them credit towards college application or college courses. Does that make sense? So I can be graduating from high school with 3 AP courses, took the AP exam, passed it with a 3, 4, or 5, it's out of 5, and then that will give me credit for that subject in college because it was college level courses. Make sense? Okay. Honors are also advanced, but they're not given the same credits for college. Yes?
Are AP better than honors?
They're better because, it's not better, it's just, it really depends on what you want to do. Like, if you're trying to not take these subjects again in college, then take AP courses. What happens is, though, why they're on the same level is because you get an extra bonus point in your GPA in high school, whether it's honors or AP. The AP are just a bonus no matter what, even for admissions. Like the college admission counselors, they don't really care for the AP exams or the scores, just because it's a bonus to them. It's not required. But it is amazing if you have it, especially if you take an advantage of, let's say, 5 AP courses out of the 7 that they offer at your high school. That shows that you took advantage of the different things that they offered for you. So just keep that in mind. Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Okay. So we'll talk briefly about the different types of institutions. Some of you said earlier UCLA, you said Berkeley, someone said Cal Poly. That's a Cal State, right? UC Berkeley, that's a UC. USC, that's a private, right? UCLA, that's a UC. So there are different types of institutions. It's between the public and the private institution. So for the public institutions, we have UC, which is the University of California group. How many do we have total in California? We have 9 of them, okay? So let's name them. UCLA, Irvine, Berkeley, Barbara, Davis, Merced, Riverside, yep, San Diego. You said Santa Barbara and Riverside, and there's one more. One more. Santa Cruz. Okay? So those are going to be your UC campuses. Now, does anybody know the difference between the Cal States and the UCs? Or just in general, what's the difference between the UCs and the rest of the institutions? So the UCs, has anybody went to a UC system, or a UC campus? No one visited a college yet? Which UC?
I went to UCLA.
UCLA and UCLA. What do you think about it? They're huge. They're almost like a small Disney, but for school. It's pretty big, and that's a huge factor I have, because if you are a student that doesn't mind that big of a massive of a campus, go for it. But that is one of the things that they're known for, is the campus size. It tends to be a little bit bigger than other schools. What else did you notice about the school?
Something like UCLA, they not having a lot like the small school.
The one-on-one interaction. So the professor ratio. So you have, like here, for example, the ratio between me and you guys is probably what, 25-1. That's pretty small. But if you go to UC, you have 150-1 in a seminar class. So that's another issue, not issue, but another factor that you have to figure out if you want. What else did you notice about UCLA? What have you heard about UCLA? Sports. They're D1, right? Okay. So they're pretty high up there with their athletic aspect. What else? They have medical programs. It's a little competitive, yeah. They're definitely on the higher end as far as the admission rate. What else? It's acceptance rate? No, it's pretty low. Like it's at least between 20%, 12 to 20. Yeah. What else? They, compared to the privates, they're similar, but the other publics, not really. They're pretty high as far as the admission rate. So the UCs, like everybody said, they are probably one of the the bigger schools, they're elite as far as the admission process. They're also known for their research. So every faculty member that teaches there as a professor is practicing research as well, because they are PhD or doctoral candidates who are doing research as well throughout their career. So that's another thing too. If you're interested to work with faculty to do research, that's a huge research institution. And then their application process is a little bit different than the rest. Of course, their application will be more of a holistic perspective, meaning that when I look at your application, I'm not just looking at your grades and scores, I'm looking at other things that you've done within your community. So what I like about their application is they look at other aspects of what you've done in your life to give you a chance for admission. So for example, I'm a student who is involved in my church community. I'm also doing ASB or government position in high school, which I'm like the president or the treasurer or the secretary member, right? And then I'm also working or doing an internship. And I have really good scores and I have a good GPA. All that will become helpful for you to be eligible for admission. So that's the big difference with UC application is that they look at a lot of different things that you can offer. So that helps all of you now, since you're still in middle school, to start getting involved in your community. That way you build your resume, you build the experience you have outside of the classroom, right? So how many of you are involved in your community? And that means church, family, siblings, or friends outside of the church. And what is it? Yeah.
I do, well, first we did VBS.
What's VBS?
Vacation Bible Study.
Okay.
So I was a servant. And in school, I'm in a medical hospital, or a medical club, where we go and do community service for hospitals, and we do research and stuff, projects.
Cool. Cool. That's good. What else? Okay. So Boy Scouts and volunteer at libraries. Okay. Cool. What else? Girls, what are y'all doing? I know you have side hobbies that you do. All the hobbies you talked about earlier, I'm sure that became an activity. No? So you don't ice skate like on the side? It's for your own self-care. I see. Okay, so if you don't have an activity that you're part of, find one. Don't let it find you. You go and find it and make it your activity. So for the boys that shared their activity, those were things that were available to them, and it was pretty easy for them to be involved because they had it given to them or directed towards them, right? Or available at their high school. Because they also have that network right now. In high school, they have those resources. But if you're not in high school, it's a little bit difficult to get involved in certain stuff because it's not available yet. But start looking at things that you can do within your community to better it and to see what issues you have as a community. Someone had a question. Do you have a question?
Not a question, but when you're asking, like, do we volunteer? I did in the summer volunteer, and it's not this church, but in another church, like, for another reason.
Okay, so another Bible study. What about spiritual competition? Is anybody doing that? That's another involvement, right? Yes, that counts. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts is another one. What else? Student council, okay? Someone have a question about?
Yeah, can you give us examples of what kind of community service they can get involved in?
So some of you are still young to work, but if you have an internship, you can try with someone, depending on what you're interested in, like in a hospital setting or in an office of your career choice. Well, he was talking about asking your counselors at high school to see if they have interest at the high school. Yes, you could do that. A sport outside of the classroom, any type of like a choir or musical instrument. That's another one. They could do homeless feeding, homeless service. We have our own event coming up for CF. I'll talk about it later. Something that you could just get you going outside of school. That will help give you a purpose and something to do. Yes. Teaching assistant, yeah. Yes, that definitely counts. A lot of the things that you can do it in your high school doesn't mean it's not an extracurricular activity, as long as it's outside the academic focus. But don't lose the passion of your career. Like teaching assistant is great, but how is that going to be tied to what you want to do later on? Do you want to become a teacher, for example? Then yes. So find something that would correlate career and internship. Okay? All right. So I'm not going to go over all this because this is more for the seniors. It is just an overview of numbers for the different types of UCs. So I know this may not make sense. Just know that every UC campus has their own process of reviewing applications. So they get a specific number of applications, they review all of them, they either admit them or waitlist them or reject them, and then from the people that were rejected, they can do an appeal if they need to, and then if they get accepted, they get accepted. So it's a whole process. Just know every campus has their own qualifications to become eligible. So I'm just going to go through these. Okay. The rubric is in your booklet. This is going to be what they use for reviewing your application. So if you're ever going to apply for college, these are the things you should be aware of. Pretty much there's the academic and the non-academic side of it. Like we talked about earlier, the non-academics are what? What's non-academic? Extracurriculars, what else? What's in that? Athletics, community service, what else? Talents, right? Or skills that you have, clubs, right? The other thing too is the geographic location. So how many of you said UCLA, right? Some of you said UCLA. UCLA is around an hour away from here, right? So geographically, you guys are a little far from it. What's your closest UC? Santa Cruz? Santa Cruz? So geographically, Santa Cruz would accept you as a priority because you are under their local area. But UCLA, for example, it's still obviously a school that you can apply to, but how they review your admission is based on not just your geographic location, but obviously they look at other things. But if you are within the area, you have a higher chance of being accepted. Does that make sense? All right, I'm just gonna skip through this. Okay, so we talked about the UCs. Any questions with the UC application or the UC institution? So all of you are going to be applying? Okay. What about the Cal State? How many campuses do we have? We have 23 campuses in California, right? What is the main difference you think between the UC and the Cal State? It's harder to get in from the Cal State? What makes you say that? So let me just make sure to not be stereotypical. When we say harder or more difficult to get into, nothing right now is more harder or more difficult. They're all pretty difficult across the board. The only one that will not give you such trouble when applying is what? Community college, because they don't have any eligibility requirements. The Cal States, the privates, and the UCs now are pretty strong across the board, depending on which school you're applying to. So I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, one is difficult than the other. It's not the case anymore. So Cal States, what's the difference between maybe a Cal State and the UC? They're a smaller campus, that's very accurate. What else? Yep, lower student-professor ratio. What else? Yeah. There's what? There's a lot more campuses, right? There's 23 versus the 9. What else? They are less expensive, that's true. Mm-hmm. Higher acceptance, almost the same, but they, even like the campus size, like they still take 38,000 or more students. So, no, not really. What else? Yeah. GPA is gonna be definitely, so here's the thing, with the Cal States, they don't look at, you know how we said there's a holistic review? They don't do that. They just look at your scores and their GPA. So those have to be higher than average so you can actually be eligible. It doesn't mean though that you won't have a chance of getting in if you have a lower GPA, but that's all they use. It's an equation, and I'll show you right now. The equation is pretty simple. They'll take your GPA, multiply it by a number, then do some math, and then spits out a number. That number is going to be called your eligibility index. And that's what they use to see if you're eligible for their admission process. If you're higher than what's the minimum, then great, you're eligible. But now they look at your major. Hi. But now they look at your major. Are you eligible for that number? So that's how that works. If you have high GPA and high scores, then you're for sure going to get into the Cal States. But that doesn't help you if you don't have the scores or the GPA, because they can't see other things that you're doing in your community. They only see the numbers. So that's the only disadvantage to that. But what else are they known for, the Cal States? We talked about the professor ratio. We talked about the campus size. The type of institution. So you know how we said the UCs are research-based? The Cal States are not research-based. There are going to be more on the hands-on experience. So meaning that they focus more to help students gain valuable skills and knowledge to help them work later on. So the focus is to actually help them prepare for the workforce rather than doing research. So a lot of your assignments are going to require you to do internships outside of the classroom. So when I was majoring in psychology, part of the curriculum or part of the transcripts, I had to do an internship outside of the campus. So that's how I was prepped to work outside after graduation. It doesn't mean that the UCs don't prep you. That's, of course, to help prep you for for jobs, but their main mission for the Cal States is to do that. Help you with hands-on experience. That's pretty much it with the Cal States. They have the same activities they offer at the UCs. You know, professors, some of them are not going to be PhD, doctoral program, doctoral candidates, but they still have their doctorates. Maybe they don't have to practice research as much as the UC system.
Are they cheaper?
The Cal States are cheaper, and tuition-wise, yes, they're around $7,000 a year. With UCs, we're looking at $14,000 a year. But we'll talk more about that later as far as financial aid and tuition. Yeah.
So now what's the difference between them both? Like,
So the one is more research focused, UCs. The college size, campus size is definitely larger. You have the campus population is going to be different at every institution no matter where you go. The student professor ratio, so you have 150 students with one professor at the UC, but then you'll have 35-to-1 at the Cal States. So it's really depending on the experience you want as a college student and what's your major. That's going to help you a lot. Both are public, yes. Yeah.
When you go apply for your first job, does it make a difference when you see on the resume that whether you graduated from UC versus Cal State?
Yeah, that's a really good question. No. I mean, your diploma, no matter where you go, will just be assessed based on your experiences that you have and sometimes your GPA. So for me, like, for example, I went to Cal State Fullerton for undergrad. I went straight into USC for my master's. Cal State Fullerton being a Cal State was not a factor that they looked at to see if, oh, she's accepted to USC or not. So it's not based on where you got your degree from. It's more of what you've done at that institution and what were your scores, especially if you're applying for grad school. If you're applying for a job, all I really need to know is the experiences that you have. Of course, sometimes we'll ask you, do you have a bachelor's degree of some sort? Yeah, I do. But what experiences do you have to offer? And that's why my biggest advice to any of these workshops when I go to see students, I tell them, at the end of it all, you're going to a 4-year institution, and you'll end up with a piece of paper that says bachelor's degree and so on and so. Now, what have you done in college? That will probably be a better evaluation of your degree than the actual degree. Yeah.
How do the schools look at the high schools where the graduates are coming out? So you have certain high schools that are much more competitive or higher
Mm-hmm.
academically.
Mm-hmm.
So the pool of graduates that are getting out, it might be much more competitive, and a 4.0 may not be that great of a deal when you've got, a much, much bigger pool that are in that higher end, compared to a school that may not be as competitive, and now you have, so is it better to be in a school that's not so great,
Mhm.
start a little bit more,
Mhm.
a school that's much more competitive, where you're kind of a norm?
Right, yeah. I mean, that's a good question for the parents because, you're always tied between the private high school, the public high schools, and then within the public, which one is higher, or which one is looked at better from the college perspective. So that's a really good question. If I was a parent, well, here, let me backtrack real quick. With college admissions and the college counselors, when they're reviewing an application from high school, they get the high school profile for that school student. So if I'm looking at his high school or her high school, I'm looking to see what resources they offered at that high school, and I don't compare that student to another student at a different high school. They don't ever compare each other. They always compare the student within that same high school with the student that's going to that same high school. So if I have two students going to the same high school, unfortunately they're being compared to one another. But he will never be compared to someone else going to another different high school because the resources offered at that high school are completely different than the resources that this person has. So when I'm looking at the high school requirements for my institution, let's say UCLA, and this person applied to UCLA from a private, most elite high school. But I'm going to look not at of course I'm going to look at high school profile, but I'm going to see how many AP courses were offered at the high school and how many they actually took, or how many honors have they taken, or what activities they've taken advantage of at their specific high school. So every student is evaluated at their high school and what they've taken advantage of at their high school. No matter where you go, if let's say you're at one of the disadvantaged high schools, and they don't offer as many AP courses, they don't have a lot of activities, that does not put them at disadvantage because they know this high school does not have those opportunities for that student. Of course, the student has a chance to go outside of the high school and do more. That's awesome. But they never that's not a barrier that they'll face if they don't have that offered. Another thing too is the numbers from previous years. So if that high school is known to take top 10 of their high school students into that school, that's how they're going to base it off of. Last year, we accepted 10 students. This year, we can only accept 5 because we don't have as many competitive students, so we'll take 5. But they always look at the previous years of that high school's history of admission for that school. Yeah.
As far as college applications, what are some things that they look for non-academically that we can start working on now?
So we've been talking about it. So the extracurricular activities, those are going to be your highest selling point. Yes, we're talking about clubs, we're talking about internships, work experience, any type of hospital work that you're doing, shadowing someone within your church. You can do a lot of tutoring, or you could do cleaning, or some type of service that is outside of the class. It's always going to be your highest point. The other thing will just be your grades. You want to also have really good grades doing all this. So those two.
What about sports?
Extracurricular activities, yep, that's part of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors, I'm not sure if this is true or not. If you mark yourself as part of a minority race, like African American, you get better chance being accepted in UC versus you say you're white American.
Right. Yeah, so that's something that I don't support as far as us identifying as African American, because we're not. Yes, we're from Africa, but we're not considered African American. If you look up the Egyptian as a race, we're actually categorized under white. So on all the applications, you'll see white, and then you'll see in parentheses Middle Eastern. If you don't feel comfortable identifying as Middle Eastern, you can say under other, and you can say Egyptian. The other thing too, where you can state your Egyptian, minority, Coptic, all that, is in your personal statements. They have that space to talk about their identity as well. So I don't like when people do this in our community where they use being African American to get them into college, because we're not African American and we are not discriminated against like they are discriminated against on a daily basis. So we are not African American. Okay. Okay, so we had the UCs and the Cal States and what's another one? Community college. Anybody here interested in community college? Okay. To transfer, right? Right. Mm-hmm.
Can't you take the same classes in community college for way less expensive
Right.
at a 4-year school?
So that's another thing too though, because a lot of students are like, oh, I can go to community college for less money and then graduate, or not graduate, but transfer. You're gonna be, if you're getting financial aid, FAFSA, no matter what school you go to, those 2 years are gonna be paid for, because you're eligible to get FAFSA covering your tuition. So no matter what, that should be an issue as far as finances. Now, if you are not low income, you make enough money and you don't get FAFSA, then maybe the community college is a route for you, since you can actually pay out of pocket for that and then go to 4-year. But don't let the financial aspect determine where you go. Let that be up to God and do your best with FAFSA. As far as going to which type of institution, community college is not a bad route. A lot of people will think that, oh, because it's easy and there's no requirements that you can get in. That's not the case. It is just a different route. So if you didn't make it to your dream school, let's say UCLA, and you applied as a first-year student and you didn't get in, and you still want to go, you could go through community college. You can go to attend 2 years and then transfer to UCLA. Just so you all know, the first 2 years of any college you go to are going to be the same exact 2 years, meaning the subjects that you take are all going to be general education courses. So your math, your science, the history, arts, all your electives will be done your first 2 years at the community college or at a 4-year college. Then that's when we are able to transfer out of a community college and we're able to attend a 4-year.
So if you're taking community college and then transfer program,
Yeah.
and you're applying for that 4-year college, would they be looking at your community college grades?
Yeah, so you start from scratch. So you went to high school, you got your GPAs, that's going to be set aside. Now you have the community college to worry about. You start your GPA from scratch.
So they would still be looking at your community.
Yeah, they only look at your community college GPA, no more SAT or ACT, and then if there's personal statements required, of course, and any extracurricular activities, yeah.
Do they still give a FAFSA?
Yeah.
Community college?
So FAFSA is for any college application, so community college as well. They'll cover all 4 years. If you are
I'll say if you go into your college and if you transfer, will you still get a master's in school?
Yeah. Anywhere you go for college, you should be getting FAFSA if you're eligible. Yes.
It's optional to go to community college.
It's optional if I want to do it.
Community college, or do you have to? Wait, what's optional?
It's optional to go to, or you're gonna take it through the 4 years college. Like,
Community college is a route. It's a different route. So you know how we have Cal States, UCs? Community college is another route. It's any of them are options. You just have to pick which one. Yeah.
I think what she meant is she can't go directly to the university, UC or Cal State, and skip the community college. I think that's what she meant.
Yeah, so there are two options. Either going from high school straight into a 4-year, which is a UC or Cal State or private, or not doing that and going from high school to community college, taking 2 years at a community college and then taking 2 years again at 4-year. But it's always a total of 4 at the end. Yeah.
what is the reason to go to the community college?
So one of the reasons would probably be if you don't know what you want to do as far as major. So let's say I'm still not sure, I don't want to go waste my time at a 4-year. Let's look at my options at a community college, take the classes that I needed, and I can transfer when I'm ready. But that doesn't mean every undeclared student should apply for community college either, because you can go to a 4-year, still be figuring out what you want to do, and then declare your major later on. The year you have to for sure know your major is your sophomore year going to junior year. So like that summer, you should probably have an idea. Community college, another reason a lot of students go is because they don't get accepted to their dream school, so they tend to like say, okay, I didn't get accepted, I'll just go through community college and then transfer to that dream school. Or financially, now this is something that is again based on your financial circumstance, because if you're low income and you're getting FAFSA no matter what, if you go to a 4-year or community college, it should be free. But some students who are not low income have high, income, and their parents are like making enough money, they don't want to pay the full price out of 4 years, so they'll pay it out of community college instead, and they're transferred.
So what I understand that if your GPA in the high school is not that good, you go to the community college and they look at the community college schools, not the high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a lot of you are very early on, so you should not put that as a plan A. It should be your plan C, because you all have another 4 or 5 years to get your grades to be the highest you can get. So please don't make that your first choice. Yeah.
As far as med school, let's say you take the first 2 years in community college, would you be able to just move on to your years or something?
Yeah, so he's talking about med school and how that works if you start at community college. So it will be 2 years at a community college, then 2 years at the university, whether it's a CSU or UC or private, and then you'll go to grad school, which is the medical school, for another 4 years, and then the residency for another 3 years. And then if you specialize, that's another 3 years, and so on. But that's usually how it works. But community college is just the first 2 years for any institution. Anything else?
Speaking of med school, just take this as an example. Let's say that a kid wants to go to a med school. Is there anything he can do extra during junior high and high school to shorten the path to med school, meaning that there are special classes he can offer in junior high or high school that he can focus on to get into med school much faster? Or
Yeah.
there's no such thing?
There is. There's 2 different things we could do here. The first one is taking AP courses, which is the advanced placement courses. Those are going to be the courses that are college level courses taken at a high school. They could be biology, it can be chemistry, physics, but if they take the AP class and then there's an exam, AP exam they take, and if they score a 3 or 4 or 5 out of the 5, that will give them AP credit or college credit at their college institution, help them finish their requirements faster. Now, not all the time, with med school, specifically med school, you don't have to major in biology in undergrad. You could do psychology, you can do kinesiology, you can do even engineering if you want. But with med school, they have specific classes they require in sciences and math to be eligible for med school. So that's all they have to worry about is the list of courses if they for sure want to do med school. I've seen students who do major in psych and minor in biology. That helps. Or do anything as a major and then minor in biology. That usually fulfills the prereqs for med school. But they just have to do the research ahead of time as far as what med school they want to go to, what they want to attend. The other route to finish faster, which I also don't support, is the CHASP. Has anybody heard of it?
Yeah.
Where you take the exam after you're done with sophomore year. You must have done sophomore year, and you're 16 years of age. They take this exam where it's math and English. It's like a exit exam almost. They take it. If they pass it, they're done with high school, and they go straight into college or community college. Sorry. And the only route is community college. They can't go to a 4-year because they technically don't have a high school diploma. It's an equivalent to a high school diploma, but their only option is community college, and then they technically finish 2 years faster. I don't support it just because there's no rush. When you're in sophomore year, you're still not ready for college level courses. So I wonder how well the student will do in college as far as a community college student going straight from sophomore year. That's the only thing that I would worry about. Yeah.
So,
So he's talking about IB. There are certain classes too in high school that are called IB, and B as in boy. They're just very like similar to advanced placement or honors courses. If they have it, you should probably look into taking some, because that means your high school offers it. You can take it.
And all junior high and high school offer the AP classes?
I mean, again, every high school is different, so the AP courses may be limited at some, and some might have a lot, just depending on what they offer, but that never hinders their application as far as, oh, you didn't take a lot of AP courses. Well, I didn't have a lot offered at my high school, so that does not affect their admission.
And we offer the junior high and high school?
Just high school.
Only high school?
High school, it's either AP or honors or IB.
But what about the GATE test? GATE?
What's gate test?
Yeah.
Is it like STAR testing or an exit exam? But what does it do? It's not the chastity, so I don't think that does anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, if my high school or my junior high school doesn't give me the chance to take AP classes,
Yes.
can I get it anywhere else or it has to be through the school?
So you can attend a community college. As a high school student, you can do a dual enrollment. It's called where I am taking a biology class at my community college, and that counts as high school credit and AP credit. So you could do community college as well. But to answer your question about that GATE or STAR testing, that's just probably within your high school. You can ask the high school counselor about it, but I don't think it's helps you like get a diploma or anything. It's just probably some type of testing they do for standardized across the board for the state. I just don't think it's anything with admissions. Yeah. Okay, so he's asking about like the language requirement for high school. If you know, if I take Spanish versus French or versus Latin, I've heard Latin helps because of the vocab in SAT or ACT exams. A lot of the Latin or vocab have Latin origins, so it helps you figure out the definition of a word. Personally, it's your preference. You could do Spanish, you could do French. No.
Is it true that they think it's like school would be more for jobs, more bilingual or trilingual?
Right, yeah, of course. He's talking about if they would accept you with a bilingual, trilingual, going into a job, of course. I mean, Spanish is probably the most demanding language out there. So if you can get, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, but did I really use it? Not really. So if you have to be passionate about it. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, we're just gonna move forward real quick, because I have the financial aid one as well. So within the community college, they have something called the TAG, which is the Transfer Admission Guarantee. Let's say you applied to UCI as a high school senior. You didn't get to UCI, but you really want to go to UCI. Part of the TAG program at the community college, you would apply to it your second year at community college. You have to have a certain GPA, I think it's above a 3.5. If you're in that TAG program and you apply to UCI, your admission is guaranteed. You could get in automatically because of that program. Sorry?
So it's like really good.
What's good? I mean, it helps, but they're part of specific UCs only, not all the UCs. So there's, I know it's on your, it's in your booklets as far as which UCs. Santa Barbara's on there, Santa Cruz, and UCI. It should be the one in first pages. It's a transfer one. What page is that? Page 10. All right. So these are the schools they partnered with: UC Davis, UCI, Merced, UCR, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. We have San Diego that's missing, Berkeley, LA. Those are really hard to do in like a guarantee, but UCI is on there. So this is what I was talking about, the test. Is anybody interested in this? Thinking about it? Okay. I would just be careful with, if you're already taking college level courses and you're ready to go to community college, and that's the only route you're going to have to take, you can't find any other one. And that's fair. All right, so we talked about bless you.
The last week is very is the last year is gonna be the last year of the last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Like they're discontinuing it. I don't know if they're just. I haven't heard. I'm not sure. To be honest. No, I haven't heard about it. I wouldn't know why they would do that because it's an option. So, but I'll look into it. So we talked about the UCs, the Cal States, and what? The community college. What's the fourth one? The private. What's an example for a private school? Pepperdine. Oh, you guys, I worked there. I remembered. Okay. What else?
Like, well, not here, but like Harvard.
Harvard. What else? Yale.
Stanford.
Stanford. Yeah. What about USC? USC is private, right? So, what do you think is the difference between the private and all the other types of publics that we talked about? Expensive, yes. Lower acceptance rate, yes, very, very so. Say what? Depending on the school. Like Pepperdine, Malibu is pretty big, but then you go to Mount St. Mary's, it's pretty small.
Oh, teacher ratio.
Oh yeah, the professor ratio, right? You have lower, smaller ratio than the private.
They like put a lot of money into their education.
Yeah, you could say so.
Do they have sports?
They do. They have sports, of course. What else? What else do privates have? What else do they have? Privates. Okay, from research base, yes. Not like the UCs, but some schools are definitely known for their research. 100%. Yeah. FAFSA covers all types of institutions. Okay, so with the UCs, the privates, they are expensive. They have the flexibility because they're not funded by the government, so they get to do whatever they want. As far as admission, as far as giving you scholarships, the funding they have in general for their programs, and they can give students full rides if they really wanted to, depending on your accomplishments coming from high school.
Can like other schools get full rides, or is it more private?
For the most part, privates are good at it, unless you apply for an external scholarship, then you can get a full ride. The UCs also, the professors, some of them practice research, so you definitely will see that as part of the curriculum, the research component. I personally went to USC and I personally went to Cal State Fullerton or a CSU. There's a huge difference as a student as far as the experience as a student. You know, one of them, and not to be biased, but the CSUs as a student, I felt like I had my success was a priority. And at USC, as a grad student, I felt like I was more of a number than a student. Meaning, they have certain numbers they have to meet to meet their standards or their funding. There's not that, again, my experience is different, but maybe as an undergrad it's completely different. I was a grad student, so it's different, but the UCs, the privates just have so many students, and because it's almost like a business, they tend to lose focus of the students and their success. That's all.
What's the difference between
Undergrad and grad student. So undergrad is your bachelor's degree, your 4 years, and then grad is like your medical school or anything after your bachelor's degree, master's or
like
something. Anything after 4 years. Their application process is a little different than the Cal States, but they're very similar to the UCs. They just have more requirements like the letter of recommendation from a professor or counselor, and then personal statements as well, just like the UCs. Also a holistic review. They look at everyone's activities and their awards and of course their scores and their GPA as well. But the higher, the better, of course. Yeah. Did you have a question? Oh. Let's skip over here. So this is probably the most important slide. How are we doing on time? Okay. Match versus fit. So we talked about all the different types of institutions, right? Now, after we discussed all 4 types, who's more lenient towards the UCs? Or who's going to apply to the UCs? What about the Cal States? What about the UCs? Did I say 2 already? Yeah. The privates. So no one's applied to college? Community college? Okay. No college. Great. So if you're applying to college, there is something called match versus fit. What do you think that is? I know you're a little bored, I'm sorry. Match versus fit, what is it? Right? So on paper, you match with the school. They like you, you like them, right? Now fit. No, it's contract. Match, they like you. Fit, do you like them? So we talked about, you said Duke earlier. Now I asked you, did you go to Duke campus? Well, let's say you went, okay? After you thought that Duke was your dream school, and you went, and then you're like, no, I don't see myself as a student there. That is a fit issue, where you don't see that yourself as fit to that campus. No, I don't have anything against you. I wanted to see why you said Duke.
Oh,
Because
it's just because of the
okay, so I would encourage you to probably look into the campus stuff just to see the life as a student there. But in general, when it comes to fit, you want to see if you fit as a student rather than just the reputation of the school. Okay. We're almost done, I promise. Okay. So we talked about your academic qualities. Now we have your personal qualities. Back to the why. Why college? Why are you doing what you're doing every day? Right? What is your story? You know, what is that why behind that story that you have? So let's say, well, here, I'm going to ask you guys, what is your motivating factor when it comes to school? Comfortable financially, okay. What else? But what is going to be your motivating factor at your lowest point? Making your parents proud, okay. What else? Accomplishing what you started, right? Finishing what you started, okay. You have that mutual respect with others, right? What else? When I'm at my lowest point in life, doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be academically. It could be something that I'm struggling with personally. What would motivate you to continue? For the parents and for the students. It's a deep question. But think about it, because this will be your why later on when you are pursuing the degree you're pursuing. You're going to have a stronger passion behind it. It's not just going to be a piece of paper or going to class just because my parents want me to go. It's because it's something that means more to you, it's more significant to you for a future investment. Make sense? So the why is going to be important. So I encourage you all to go home today, sit with yourselves for a little bit in your room or outside, whether you're journaling or just thinking, is to look at the why of what motivates you when you're at your lowest point. Maybe you haven't gone through certain stuff yet because you're maybe a little young, but maybe there have been things that you've gone through or you experienced with your family or your siblings or your friends that will put you in perspective as far as things that you want to do in your future. Yeah, you have a question? Oh. All right. So these are the different things you could do to answer someone's question earlier as far as being involved. These are a lot of things that you can get involved into as far as extracurricular activities. So if you don't have any of these on here, I would look into other things that you could do to initiate that activity within your community. Any questions about this? Okay. We're almost done. I think that's pretty much it. Just so you know, this will be it's all in your booklet, the timeline. So for the freshmen in the room, 9th grade, you want to meet with your counselor, your high school counselor. You want to plan out with him or her your schedule for the next 4 years as far as the subjects and what you're going to take. You want to make sure you're following the 8th grade requirements that we talked about earlier. And then explore your extracurricular involvement. But before you do that, I would look into that why first. What is your why? To start getting involved. They're correlated, always. Yeah?
You will share the presentation with us?
I could share it as a PDF, but literally all the content is in the booklet. That's why we did that.
Okay.
So they have them all in the booklet.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? I'm done with my the admissions part. The next presentation would be financial aid, but since they're all middle schools, I don't know if it's going to be helpful. But I can answer any financial aid questions you have. I can give you a brief overview of what FAFSA is too if you need it. Anybody here in high school besides the 3 here? You're in high school, what grade? Oh, wow. You're my perfect candidate. Okay, well, we'll talk later. Anything else? Any other questions? So FAFSA. FAFSA is the way to get money for college. Simplest way I can put it. FAFSA is an umbrella for different types of aid. You have your grants, which is the free money they give you. The loans, which is not free money, but this will give it to you to help you with your college expenses. And then you have scholarships, and then you have work study. And we'll talk about that if you want more information. But FAFSA will be the application you submit every year in college, starting senior year in high school, all the way till senior year in college, to get FAFSA, or to get financial aid for your tuition. Now that all depends on your income as a family, so your mom, your dad, you and your siblings. Everybody's income is looked at and evaluated to see if you get financial aid. If you make high income, sometimes they'll give you some free money, sometimes they don't give you anything at all. And if the lower you make as far as income, the much higher tuition you get paid off. I forgot what I was going to say. Just know you're also first generation college students. If your parents did not go to school here in the United States, you're considered a first gen college student. So if your parents, both of them, did not go to school here in the States, let's say they got their bachelor's degree in Egypt, and we came here, you're still considered a first generation college student. And that puts you at an advantage because there's a lot of opportunities as a first gen student. Even if your sibling went to, let's say I went to school, my brother is going to school, he's still a first gen student. Because both of my parents got their degree.
I missed that part. Can you say it again?
Yeah. So if both parents attended school in Egypt, let's say got their degree there and came here, immigrated, the kids are going to be first generation college students. If the sibling, the older sibling went to college, and the younger one wants to go to college, they're still considered first generation if both parents also have their bachelor's in Egypt. Now, if one parent got their degree in the States, no more first generation college student status.
And what is this like a benefit?
Yes, it's a benefit because we're considered a student who's never had a role model to help them with the college application. So you're being a first generation and Egyptian and Coptic. Those are all technically a minority. So you have not higher chance, but it's always good to state it in your personal statements so they know this is your background, because they see that as, oh, you're at a disadvantage. If you're low income, that also adds to it, but not everybody is low.
For the FAFSA, you say they have a grant and the FAFSA for the grant. How much money?
It depends on your income, but the you can get for just grants on a federally is $6,500 a year. Let's say your tuition costs $13,000. So federally, you'll max that at 65, and then the state will put in more money towards your tuition. And if that's not enough, they'll put in scholarship money from the university.
But the grant, you're not gonna return it.
It's free.
It depends on the GPA.
No, it all depends on your need, financial need, so your income. Scholarships sometimes depend on your GPA and sports, but your FAFSA will always be based on your need. So your income as a parent and income as a student, and any assets you have as well.
So if we know that the EFC is high or and we're planning over the next few years, any methods or ideas or suggestions of how do we maximize, or are there things we should be looking into that help us if the financial contribution is estimated to be fairly high?
Yeah, so he's talking about EFC, which is estimated family contribution, meaning whatever your parents are responsible for to pay out of pocket when you attend college. So when you apply for FAFSA application, you submit your application, and towards the end, it spits out a number. It's called EFC. It says equal to 0, or 1, or 2,000. That's the number your parents or you guys are going to be responsible to pay out of pocket. So he's saying, let's say my EFC is 5,000. That's how much I have to pay out of pocket as tuition difference between what FAFSA gave me and what the estimated cost of attendance is, which is 5,000. That will be something you have to be, you either find a way to pay for out of pocket, or take out loans, or get scholarships. Now he's asking if he can avoid paying that 5,000. What would you do? So first year students, second year students are always going to have a disadvantage with that, because they're still considered dependent on you as far as taxes. So your income will always be a factor. As they go through probably junior and senior year, they can become independent. Depends on their age and depends on their circumstance as far as living situation and your taxes if you file them. Because your taxes are used two years prior to the academic year of applying. So by 2020 they're independent, then when they're applying for FAFSA using 2020 taxes, that's when they can be independent. But for you, since, well, I don't know what grade they are, but let's say you're applying to senior year this year, you're using 2018 taxes. So you can't really, you can't control that because you've already submitted your taxes from 2 years prior. Same thing for this year. If they're not independent, you can't use that for next year's FAFSA. Maybe the following year, now that you have control over the 2020 taxes, you could mark them as independent if you want. Meaning they're independent, they're not under you, they're not filing taxes with you, they're by themselves, and their income is only going to be with you, not yours.
So I'd have to have a move out this year.
Sorry?
So I'll have to have a move out this year.
Right, be like, bye-bye. Okay. What else? Let's hear that. Any other questions at all? All right, well, I mean, that's pretty much it. My information is in the back of the booklet with my email and phone. It's best to reach me, honestly, via email. My phone, I'm pretty busy because I have another job, so I may not be as responsive, but if you email me, I'll get to it. Any other questions at all? Cool. All right. Well, I'll be here for a little bit. If you have any more questions for the senior in the room, come see me.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.